Right, welcome back to the RamsTalk Podcast. Today we are joined with Mark Halliwell ahead of the Cheltenham Town fixture. Cheltenham Town versus Derby County. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm okay, Adam. Thank you very much. Well, I've been better considering the position that my football club finds itself in. But apart from that, I'm okay.
Unfortunately, so that's how it goes, isn't it? Going straight into it, we'll get talking it. Obviously, just to mention, we are recording this ahead of the Tuesday night fixtures. Obviously, Cheltenham Town are playing Fleetwood Town, Derby County. We're playing Blackpool. Two clubs in very close proximity to each other, so that's quite interesting there. But we'll go straight into it. We'll start off. Obviously, we're very early in the season, aren't we? But it's not been a great start for Cheltenham. I don't think I'm too far away from saying that. But what is your opinion, Mark, on the start of the season? I'll just let you take the floor on this one.
It's been a disaster, an absolute disaster. You can't dress it up in any way, shape, or form. And for a professional club to have gone 10 league games without scoring a goal is embarrassing. It is absolutely embarrassing, and it cost Wade Elliott his job. And I don't think there's any football club anywhere that would keep a manager when you've gone through that run. Wade did brilliantly for us last year, got us to 16th in the division, a second highest finish we've ever had in our history in the Football League. And but you can't defend the start to the season. There are mitigating circumstances. We've had quite a lot of injuries and all that, but injuries don't prevent people scoring goals. You know, there's other players around who can do it, and just haven't, for whatever reason. In some games, we haven't even created many chances. In other games, we have. We've hit the bar, we've hit the posts, we've had goalkeepers making brilliant saves against us. But that's not in every game. That's only in, a few of the games. And now we've got Darrell Clarke in charge. He took charge today as we're recording this. Actually, I've just come back from meeting him, actually. And he seems very straight talking. One of the questions he was asked was, what was your message to the players at training today? And he turned around and said, they haven't been good enough. and that's what you want to hear from a manager. You don't want to hear any sugarcoating. And but he knows it's not going to be a quick fix. But there's absolutely no dressing up what has been an absolutely disastrous start to the season. And already, effectively, we've given the rest of the division a 10-game head start, and now we've got to try and find a way. Even those clubs who've had points deducted are quite a way above us now in the table, which is even more embarrassing when you think about it. But no, it's in a nutshell, not been good enough, and a lot of people, a lot of players have just underperformed and need to step it up. Or this new manager. He won't put up with that. He'll have them out as soon as he can. Otherwise, so they're playing for their futures, a lot of them.
Yeah, I think when you said about the honesty from Darrell Clarke there, I think that's what every football fan likes, isn't it? A bit of honesty from the manager, especially in the position that Cheltenham are in. And then we'll go on to talk. Obviously, I know Darrell Clarke wasn't in the club at this point, but obviously the summer transfer window, Alfie May left for Charlton. Obviously, he was a big goal scorer last season. I mean, I find parallels between Cheltenham and Derby and the fact that obviously we had David McGoldrick last season, and now we're struggling to score a little bit without him. So there's parallels there. I can understand that. But what do you make of the summer transfer window then, from a Cheltenham Town point of view? Obviously, the start of the season, and what do you make of it?
It was dominated by Alfie May. And a lot of Cheltenham fans will tell you that he was given away on the cheap, believed to be around £250,000, which is a ridiculous price for a player who scored 43 goals in the last two seasons. I know for a fact, by the way, that Derby had a sniff and they were interested. I know that for a fact.
I would have liked him a lot. I thought he was a great player last season.
I must admit, last season I thought when he was scoring all those goals and Derby were just, I thought, struggling to get into that playoff push and just needed that little. I thought he'd be ideal. I thought you thought to yourself, right, if I was Paul Warne, I'd be on the phone on May the 8th saying, how much do you want for Alfie May? Get him up here. And I just thought absolutely nailed on that he would be the sort of player that Derby would want. I don't think there's any team in the top sort of 8 or 10, 12 clubs in League One who wouldn't want him in their team. But he's a South London boy. He's a South London Kent boy. So, he's gone home effectively. I think the Valley is about 5 minutes from his mum and dad's house. So, yeah, you can't look at it that way, but it's dropped us right in the car. And we had Aidan Keener here last year, who scored a few goals at the back end of last year, signed from Sligo. But he hasn't done it this year. He just hasn't looked the same player this year, whether that's because Alfie's gone or whether that's because, we haven't been able to find a way of playing without Alfie that has suited him. We brought Rob Street in, who was at Shrewsbury last year. He hasn't looked like scoring a goal. Then who has? But so, and we've now got 7 players on loan. You can only use 5, so it's been a bit of a muddle. Really, it's all been a bit of a mess and a muddle. And so the summer transfer window, you can say, I know you look at recruitment sometimes and you think, oh well, we'll judge the recruitment at the end of the season and see what the recruitment's like. But 10 games in, you can already see that the recruitment hasn't been good enough. So, and again, that's another thing for Darrell Clarke to wrestle with. But Darrell Clarke's got to use these players. He's got 29 players in the squad, so he's got enough players to blooming choose from. So he's got 29 players to work with until January, and then it'll be very, very interesting to see what changes he makes. Because even by the way he's talking now, like he was at the game against Lincoln on Saturday, and he said he's watched every single game that we've played. He's watched back, videos of every single game that we've played, and he said, well, his exact words were something like, there were a number of things in there that wouldn't happen in a Darrell Clarke team. So you can see already that he's thought, nah. And you can think to yourself, there's probably several players in there already just by watching those videos that he thought, nah, I'm not having you, mate. So, I think we could have I think January could be very, very interesting. But until then, he's got to find a formula to get these players to work. And it's going to be difficult because some of them quite patently aren't up to it.
Yeah, I think once again it goes back to the honesty that you mentioned before, and I think it leads me quite nicely onto my next question. I know obviously Cheltenham have had a tough start, obviously, as we've said, not to dress it up in any other way. But looking at the stats, obviously I'm not a Cheltenham Town fan, so you know better than me. But looking at who's the player on form at the moment, it says. Surprisingly, yeah. It says, well, looking over the stats, it mentions Lewis Freestone.
Yeah,
has a good average rating, but then it also mentions Curtis Davis, which obviously a former Derby County man last season. Who for you has been the player this season, which you think has probably been the best player on average so far? Obviously in that struggling team, but could really kick on.
You say Lewis Freestone. I mean, Lewis has done very, very well. He came in a couple of years ago and he didn't have a great start, and the fans were like, nah, I'm not sure about you, and he was getting a bit of stick. Last season he was brilliant until he got injured at Christmas, and then he came back. And so, no, he's done very, very well, and he's turned himself into a decent player, I think, at this level. Elliot Bonds as well in midfield, he's done okay. He's another one I think can sort of say, yeah, I've done right. Liam Sercombe is another. We've got a lad on loan from Bournemouth called Owen Bevan, who is a centre-half, Wales under-21 international. And he's probably actually the reason at the moment that Curtis can't get in the team, because he's come in and he's done very, very well. And of the 7 loans we've got, he's probably the one of them who has shown that he can cut it at this level. As for Curtis, he came in, he's very good friends with Wade Elliott, which is basically why he signed for us. And he admitted that straight away. So, and now Wade's gone. Will he... the question from among some Cheltenham fans is, will he stick around, or will he just decide that that's it, my mate's gone? Because he's always said, I think he gave the impression when he came that, he was going to play for this season and then that might be it for him, and he might then go into media, which is what he wants to do, and he's pretty good at it, to be fair. He's done quite a lot for Sky, hasn't he, and other people. So the talk, he gave that impression. So now we're sort of wondering, now his mate's gone, will he? But it doesn't seem to be that way. I think it'll be quite important actually for Darrell Clarke to have around, to be honest, because I think he'll be quite useful to use, experience wise. He played a few games. He started off, we played Bolton at home, and he had a pretty ropey game in that one. But then he's come back well, and in most of the games that he's played since, he's done pretty well. He had a really good game against Reading. We lost there. He had a really good game at Portsmouth when we got our only point. So he had a really good game there up against Colby Bishop. Looked after Colby Bishop really well in that game. That's probably his best game for us. But last couple of games, he actually found himself on the bench because we played a 4. We started both of those games with a 4, with Owen Bevan and Lewis Freestone as the 2, and he couldn't. And so Curtis was sort of the odd man out, really. So it'd be interesting to see if Darrell Clarke goes back to a 3 tomorrow. He might come back into the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like you mentioned there, that there could be some changes in terms of Darrell Clarke's team coming up. Obviously, Fleetwood tomorrow, Derby County on Saturday. And that leads me into my next question now. Obviously, Fleetwood tomorrow, so you've got to try and bear that in mind. You can lead into that. But what are your thoughts ahead of Derby? Do you think Cheltenham are going to sit back defensively, or what do you expect from Darrell Clarke and his team coming in these next 2 games?
I think I'm really hoping we get some sort of bounce. It's not difficult to get better from where we are. I thought Saturday at Lincoln was the poorest performance of all that we've had this year. When you consider we haven't scored a goal and we've lost practically every game, that's saying something really when that one is the worst of the lot. But it was. And not really. And it was surprising that it was, because you've got your new manager sat in the stand there and you think, right, I'm going to go out there, and you think, let's go out there, give that extra 10%, really stick it in, and And that, I think, would have told Darrell Clarke a lot about what he's got and the sort of players that he's got in his squad. So a few of them didn't do themselves any favours by any means, and the only people who probably benefited from that were the people who weren't in the team, like Curtis, like we were talking about. But we got 3 home games. We got Fleetwood Tuesday, then Derby, then we've got Newport in the Papa John's, and then we haven't got a game because of the international break. So he's got these 3 home games, and I think he'll be looking at as many players as he can look at in those 3 games in a game, and seeing what he's got, and seeing what he wants to do. He normally plays a 3, but he has played all sorts of formations, so it's really difficult to try and second guess how he's gonna play and what sort of system he's going to play. Derby at home, difficult. It's going to be difficult for us. It's going to be hard. I mean, I would expect. Bolton came, Barnsley came, they dominated the ball when they came, and I suspect Derby will do the same. So I expect us to I think it'll be pretty slim pickings for us, really. If we could get a draw out of the game, I'd be absolutely delighted. If we could score a goal, it would be a miracle. You'd probably have, half of Cheltenham would be celebrating, would be running around the pitch. But no, tough, really tough game again, and probably the sort of game he would want, Darrell Clarke would want, because if you think about it, you've got Fleetwood at home tomorrow, which is a game against a team in and around you. So you can see that's going to probably be a horrible, ugly fight of a game. So you'll see, right, how many of my players are up for that sort of game? Then you've got Derby on Saturday, which is probably a bit different. A game probably you're not expected to win. A game where you're probably not going to get much of the ball. A team where you're going to bring a big away support. It's going to be a good atmosphere, good noise. But then how do your players respond to that challenge? So you've got 2 different challenges. You've got the Fleetwood challenge and the Derby challenge. And they're 2 very different challenges. So he'll learn a lot, I think, from his players in those 2 games about what he's got and how they're going to fight in the games ahead. But now I actually had Derby in my top 6 for this season. So that's where I think Derby will be. I think they will be somewhere in the top 6. So you're looking at a very, very tough game. And if we get something out of it, then it'd be great. But I'm not putting my house on it.
Yeah, I think what's interesting there is you bring up obviously the two completely different matches in terms of how to approach it. Obviously, like you said, the one that's going to be a real battle, I think, is Fleetwood, and I agree with you. I think Derby, really, I think from a Derby fan's point of view, at the moment, we're in a strange position where we're better away from home than at home, which is always strange, especially as Derby have usually always struggled away from home. It seems to have switched, and that is, from my opinion, of obviously going the away games this season, is that when we sit back at home, teams sit back against us too, and we cancel each other out. But away from home, when we sit back and teams have more of a precedence to come at us, then we seem to do better. So if Cheltenham do go a bit rigid and sit back, I think it could be quite an interesting game. And Derby, we're not.
I don't see Cheltenham. I don't see Cheltenham. I don't think it would be a good thing for Cheltenham to sit back, because if you sit, I think if Cheltenham were to sit back against Derby, then you're just asking to get beat. I really don't think that. I really don't think we can. I don't think we've got the players capable of doing it either. Because I just don't think we've got the players capable of sitting back and saying, and absorbing it, because we've conceded some blooming awful goals. So I just don't see us being capable of doing it.
I think at the moment Derby are quite a one-dimensional team going forward, using the wings. That'll be where Cheltenham will have to do most of the defending out wide. Definitely, Derby we rarely go through the middle, and most of our goals do come from crosses into the box, which obviously a lot of teams in League One, it's their forte to defend balls into the box from the wide areas, and definitely will be an interesting game. Obviously, last time Derby came to Cheltenham, obviously it was that 3-2 win for Derby. We had that.
It was a cracking game. That was
cracking game. Opening minute, the first goal went in. Then Derby.
That goal was it? That goal from about 3 miles out.
Yeah, probably the best goal I've ever seen. Obviously,
yeah, Max Bird's goal from about 3 miles out, because we took the lead, didn't we? Yeah. We took the lead really early on, and then by about 15 minutes gone, it was 2-1, and we had
that strange spell where we went on the attack and then everything seemed to go in.
Yeah, we came right back into the game, didn't we? We had a really good spell, didn't we? And I think we nearly got it back to 2-2, and then it went 3, and then
3-2, and then I'm pretty sure you hit the crossbar in the last minute. I'm pretty sure, and it was 3-2 So
it was a super game. But Max Bird's goal was the one that sort of everybody's going to remember from that.
Yeah, it was a spectacle, to say the least, and right from the away end, you could really see the swerve on it. I mean, coming into this game, I could see more of the same in terms of the entertainment value. Personally, I think if Cheltenham get a bounce against Fleetwood, which I think is very possible, Fleetwood, are a struggling side. I know they're coming off the back of their first victory on Saturday, but I think we could see more of the same. I mean, do you have a score prediction for us? Do you have a score prediction? I'm saying it now. Cheltenham will score against us.
Cheltenham nil. No. I'm going to say we will score, but I think Derby will win 3-1.
Okay.
I think Derby will win 3-1.
Yeah, I think tomorrow night's fixtures will decide everyone's thoughts ahead of it.
Tomorrow night's fixtures might change it. You know what I mean? If we're coming off a good win against Fleetwood, then everybody's going to be up. The new managers come in, the fans are going to be up. We'll have had a win. We'll have scored a goal. We'll have done all that. So, and that might just lift everything going into Derby. But if it's more of the same, then we're still going to be like we are at the moment, which is flat as anything. The new manager has given us a bit of a lift, but only a bit. Do you know what I mean? Everybody's like, oh, yeah, we like the way he talks. He's really straight talking. We're hoping he can do this, do that. But we haven't seen it yet. That's the point. I think until we've actually seen it, 9:45 tomorrow night, we might be feeling a bit different about it. But at the moment, if you ask me, I'd say 3-1 Derby.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Tomorrow night, obviously, having to record these before the Tuesday night fixtures.
I get that. Yeah, I get that.
We'll decide everyone's opinions.
You're playing Blackpool, are you?
Yeah, which I think is which is a difficult game, and especially with Derby being, I think everybody's feeling a little bit low after the 0-0 draw against Cambridge.
I'm not sure about Blackpool. They haven't really fired yet, have they? You're both sort of mid. You're both in sort of mid-table, aren't you? Neither of you sort of neither team's really sort of caught fire yet.
No, I think I could see another draw tomorrow night. Personally, I think Derby we're nowhere near our best at the minute. I think we've seen our best against Peterborough away. But apart
what I see with Derby is a team that hasn't quite fired yet. You know, that's still got a bit more to come. You know, I look at your team and I look at players like Waghorn and Collins and Barkhazen and Mendes Lang and Sibley and Bird and Washington, and I think, yeah, they should be a bit better than 12.
I think we're all thinking that at the moment, unfortunately.
Well, just as an outsider, that's the way I look at it.
I think that's completely fair.
I think that Derby haven't quite fired yet. But when then when you do, you might go on a decent run and get yourselves into that top six. Because I said top six. I actually thought, you know, I looked at things like Bolton, yourselves, Portsmouth, and I did say Blackpool as well. I thought they'd be up there. I thought Barnsley would be up there. I thought even maybe Charlton when they signed Alfie would be up there, but that doesn't look like in Portsmouth, of course. But yeah, I just don't see that you've fired yet. And as I say, I don't think it's a bad game for us to have with the second game for the new manager. I don't think it's a bad game for us to have, but I still don't see us getting anything out of it, I'm afraid. I'm not exactly optimistic.
I'd be classic Derby County. I wouldn't bet too far away from that. But then going now, obviously looking on for the rest of the season, Darrell Clarke's come in. He's going to have the January transfer window to try and shift around that squad. Like you said, it's a big squad, so he's going to have people to move on. What do you think for the rest of the season? Are you positive, optimistic?
I'm more positive than I was. Let's put it that way. I've seen every single game, and we were only going one way. I thought, flipping heck, at this rate, we're going to be relegated with record points low and record everything. But this has just given me a bit more optimism. You know, Darrell Clarke, he's managed 500 odd games at this League One and League Two level, so he knows his way around. He knows how to set a football team up. He knows players. He knows how to get the best out of players. But you have to say, in the situation that we're in, if he keeps us up, it'll be unbelievable. Even at this early stage, if he keeps us up, then he deserves a medal. I would take 20th place now. I really would. I would take 20th place now because of the situation we're in. Because he's got to bring a team from such a low, which is where we are at the moment. And first of all, he's got to stabilise it. Then he's got to try and take it on. And he's got 36 games to do it. Still enough games. No, if we were 10 games from the end of the season, cheerio. But we're only 10 games in, so there's plenty of time, I see, for him to be able to do something. And if he can get us to 20th, then it'll be one of the best achievements that a manager at this club has ever done. And we've had a few, promotions, we've had cup runs, and all sorts of things. But this would be right up there. If he keeps us up after the start we've had, if he keeps us up, unbelievable achievement.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you there. Obviously, I'm an outsider looking in, but obviously, I mean,
you just look at the league table and you can see what a mate. You look at it. Played 10, won none, drawn 1, lost 9, goals 4, 0, goals against 17, points 1. You keep somebody up from that situation. Whether you've watched every game or none, you can say, well, fair play to him for doing that.
It would be a superb achievement, both for Cheltenham and probably Darrell Clarke personally, to come in as a manager and achieve that, definitely. I understand what relegation's like most recently with Derby, but no, I completely understand it's a low one, isn't it? Yeah, it's a low one, but we've still got 36 games to go. And I think the only way is up for Cheltenham, isn't it? You can't go any lower. So the only way is up.
We've hit the bottom. We've hit the bottom. We've hit the lowest point. We can't go any worse. Well,
I think on that note of talking about the future, we'll we'll wrap it up here. I think it's been a good conversation between me and Mark talking about Cheltenham Town, Cheltenham versus Derby, thoughts of the season. We'll probably be meeting on Saturday. Cheltenham versus Derby, and Cheltenham will probably have a goal or be looking for a goal against Derby. Put it that way. I'm optimistic for you, Mark. I want Cheltenham to score tomorrow night.
Thank you, Adam. That's very good of you to say.
I want a goal for Cheltenham. It has to happen. It has to happen. But no, thanks everybody who's listened. Thank you for listening to the podcast. You can watch or listen on YouTube, Spotify, all your podcast sources. And also thank you for voting us in the Football Content Awards. We've been nominated for that and continue voting for us. All the information for that is on our social medias. Go check out what Mark does, obviously. Superb view on Cheltenham and also a great and balanced opinion. Thank you for listening. And this has been the RamsTalk podcast preview ahead of Cheltenham Town versus